Welcome to the only guide you will ever need for Big 4 auditing in terms of navigating your career. This video will not tell you how to do the job itself, and I want to tell you what Big 4 auditing is. Just go look up some video. There's countless videos on the internet talking about it, or just go on Reddit, find out, or even ask ChatGPT, explain Big 4 auditing like I'm a 10-year-old. Point being, there's a lot of unspoken truths to being in Big 4 auditing. I joined right out of college. I spent 3 years there, got the senior title, got the CPA, and then dipped out the industry. I pivoted into financial planning and analysis, so I left accounting altogether. So I would like to think that I had a very successful time in Big 4 auditing. I've had my highs and had my lows, and I personally think the best days in Big 4 auditing are the day you sign your offer and the day you put your 2 weeks in, because those 2 weeks you really don't have to care at all about the job. Well, care enough to not burn bridges. But point being, it was a wild ride. I feel like I learned a lot of unspoken truths, and so I'm making this guide to hopefully show those unspoken truths and talk about the positives and negatives of being in Big 4 auditing. Now let's talk about how I got into Big 4 auditing. I did this standard recruitment process. Back in 2019, I went to the summer leadership program. This pipeline doesn't really exist anymore, but back in the day, my college, it still is a target school, but I went to the University of Washington, Seattle. I met some recruiters at an event. It turns out it was for the San Francisco office, not for the Seattle office. And you know what, I figured, why not? I'm young, let's give San Francisco a try in the recruitment process. So they flew me in for 2 days from Seattle to San Francisco, put me in the Palace Hotel, and I had an amazing time. It really taught me, showed me oh, there's more to life than just Seattle, Washington. That led to the summer 2020 internship, which we all know how that went. I won't elaborate there. But unfortunately, it was virtual. So right off the bat, I was already a little bit disconnected from the firm's culture. But I figured, you know what, need a job, and Big 4 auditing seems like a good way to start my career. So September 2021, joined the firm as a full-time hire, and yeah, that's where the wild ride began. I moved to the city, even though clearly the firm didn't know what was happening. They told me oh, it's remote, you don't have to move to the city, but I just want to get out of my parents' house. So moved to the city, and the rest is history. Now let's talk about the first couple years in public accounting. These first couple years, I think this is the most culture shock people feel just overall, because you go from being in college where everything seems limitless, you do whatever you want in life. You just be excited at the fact of working full time in a prestigious firm, because you're oh yeah, my life is finally beginning. But then the corporate grind, I think just the biggest culture shock 1 to 2 years in is people just think oh, this is my life? Oh my God, this is depressing, honestly. And I don't think these feelings are out of the ordinary. In fact, everyone I talked to that I joined my company with said the exact same thing. If you don't feel this in some way, then congrats. The first 1 to 2 years gonna be a cakewalk. But I personally felt at least in my friend group and a lot of the people I started with, everyone thought this is a BS job. And it feels BS because it's an entry-level job. Your seniors, it's their job to tell you what to do, and they probably just okay, this task is very tedious, let's give it to the new hire, let's see how they do. And it is important that you really nail these BS tasks. Yes, it may feel they just may not feel value add. They may feel wow, I went to college for this. But at the same time, it's these initial tasks will build up your trust with people above you, and this will hopefully snowball into the rest of your career in terms of getting new projects, being on good teams. Ultimately, in this first 1 to 2 years, you should aim to be completely autonomous from your senior. Yes, there's a whole stigma, you should stick to your job responsibilities, but if you want to get promoted, if you want to get the cooler jobs, you make your senior's life easier, because once your senior can trust you with work, he will then delegate you to the manager, and once you're working directly with the manager, you're technically operating at a senior level, and you may feel at times thinking wow, I'm being paid an associate salary to be a senior? What the heck is this? But I mean, that just comes with the territory of wanting to get promoted. And one of the things they don't really tell you is just because you joined your firm out of college and you went through a whole recruitment process, you are still technically interviewing for each different team. Yes, they're all part of the same company. One audit team is technically the same company as another audit team, but you're allowed to be fired from an audit team, and that will impact your reviews. But at the same time, these are companies that are they're interviewing you to see hey, do you show a great attitude? Are you showing a willingness to learn? Do you have a skill set that the team currently doesn't have? And so you need to demonstrate this. Yes, your senior and manager will probably work in some strange hours. I would try my best to match their flow. Yes, if they're working until 9 p.m., 10 p.m. by choice, don't match that flow. And hopefully they're more courteous in terms of hey, you can log off. But yeah, I've definitely seen some cases where some teams' cultures are very much grind. They're high profile audits, but at the same time, oh man, they're tough. Year 3 is when things start to get interesting in Big 4 auditing. This is when you start to really think about yourself long term. You are a senior by this point, or yeah, if you're not a senior by year 3, you're most likely being managed out, and that's just the reality of it. You need to just like constantly keep showing like you are trying to get to the next level. There is an up or out approach, which before, like, during the Great Resignation, there was an issue where like Big Four just didn't have much in terms of talent. I did notice this back when I started versus when I left. When I started, everyone, they just need bodies in the seat. Like, they didn't care who they hired as long as like they got bodies. But then when I was leaving, it's like I survived 2 layoffs. Like, and these were the first layoff was like not the most shocking, but the second one is like, oh, this is way too close to home. Oh my god. And so you constantly just need to be showing like a willingness to learn and a willingness to like demonstrate value, because around year 3, when you're an associate at Big Four Audit, you kind of expect to just like, you're not really showing much of return on investment for the firm. But once you're a senior, you get like, you're expected to like demonstrate like just value. And so around this point, you get access to global rotations, that cool global rotation program they talk about during recruitment. You get access to this around the 3-year mark, maybe around the 2-year mark. But point being, you finally get access to the cool things. Rotations internally, like if you have an interest in deal advisory, M&A practice, or just advisory in general. A lot of people join Big Four Audit because it's a good entry-level job, prove yourself, and you can pivot internally into a more sexier line of work, because these are more value-added roles. And a lot of the reason people pivot out of audit is because they want to go more value-added service lines, because audit's compliance at the end of the day. Yes, you need an audit, but at the same time, like, your clients don't enjoy having you around. And then it's also like, if you want to be on more special assignments, like think like, I think the term was like, there's like more IPO related audits, more like if you get on a client where it's international, they may send you to, I don't know, Sweden, because I did know of a guy who was a super high performer in my office. They sent him to Sweden and like for an inventory count or something like that. Point being, he got to go to another country for free on the firm's dime, and they gave him money for food every day. So cool stuff like this happens if like you're showing a really good value at year 3. It is around the year 3 mark the job starts to pick up in intensity, I'd say. This is when people you really should assess year over year, thinking year 1, am I happy? Year 2, am I happy? Year 3, am I happy? Am I growing? And around the year 3 mark is when, because you're expected to show value to the firm, your responsibilities, leading meetings, talking to the client, managing upward, project management. If it sounds like there's a lot to this role, it's because like you kind of just like toss in a sink or swim situation. Because I had a lot of friends where it's like, yes, they flourish in this role, but there's also a lot of friends I had where it's like, they were laid off a year in. It's like they just weren't set up for success. So year 3 mark is when your work-life balance will start to take a hit. And that's a great segue into why I left public accounting. I left around the year 3 mark, got my CPA, got the senior title, and I always felt like this was everything I wanted. I realized my learning would start to plateau, because once around the year 3 mark, you're doing value, and it's like, you're very much like, audit is audit. We do audit, we don't do anything else. And it's like, yeah, audit is it teaches you good skills, but the skills you develop, like project management, Excel learning, like looking at data, talking to the client, this starts to plateau around the year 3 mark, and you should really look to like change things up, which is why a lot of people do transfer internally. But I have seen a lot of people where it's like, around the year 3 mark, they're getting good reviews, but it's like, I've never really met someone who's passionate about accounting where it's like they have a specific reason why they're still around. Around the manager level is when you start shooting for partner. That's when your why can become a lot more easier. It's like, hey, my why is to make the big bucks as an audit partner. But when you're a senior, year 3, it's like you begin to think like, oh boy, this is all I've ever known. I kind of want to try something new. Which is why I started applying to other jobs. I was applying to senior accounting, FP&A, M&A, any job that seemed interesting to me, I applied for it. And I figured like, maybe I'll get it, maybe I won't. And luckily, I got an FP&A role, and I was super excited about it. Now let's talk about the upsides of being an audit, because I may sound doom and gloom, but there is actually a lot of positives being in. I started off at $78K and I ended around $106K. Great salary progression for 3 years of professional experience, because coming out of college, I really didn't have much in the way of skills. If you saw my Excel skills right out of college, you would think like, boy, what the heck did you learn in college? Oh my god. So yeah, I had a lot of professional development. I personally felt like my professionalism in the workplace improved significantly. I had a great time in Big Four auditing, but at the same time, like, I just didn't see myself in there long term. So positives, the people are like, you will hear this all the time in recruitment, that people are the ones that like make you stick around. And that's true, because you join in cohorts. And by cohorts, I mean like you're 22, 23 coming out of college, most likely you're gonna have like 40 other people the same age as you. You're gonna have a lot of friends post-college, and you won't have as many situations like this post-college, because in college, you're kind of forced to talk to everyone around you, and then post-college, like you kind of pick and choose who you talk to. But in a corporate setting, when you're just in a group with a bunch of people, you'll make some friends you wouldn't ordinarily have talked to in like ever. And also progression, associate, senior associate, manager. It's a very streamlined process where, assuming you do the time, do good work, you will be promoted. When it comes to industry, promotions are a little bit more business need, where it's like, we need to make a case for you to have a new position. Like you could be a senior accountant for 7 years, but in Big Four auditing, you're expected to become a manager in 3 years as a senior associate. You could be a rock star and get promoted earlier, but yeah, the idea is like, very streamlined process, you are guaranteed promotions, which doesn't sound like a big deal when you join as an associate, but then when you spend some time in industry, you can appreciate it a lot more. Now let's talk about the negatives. Busy season. It sucks, there's no getting around it. People always say like, oh, you know, busy season's all about like boundaries, all about that stuff. And let's be honest, like when you're working 70 hours a week, the flexibility of when you work those hours, you will just think like, why am I doing audit? I have friends working in investment banking. I have friends working in very time-intensive jobs, and I am like doing audit for peanuts. If you don't have this thought at some point in your career, then congrats. Like you got a great mindset. You're gonna be like, the thief of joy is comparison, and you don't have it, so good on you. But I definitely had those moments where I thought like, wow, if I'm working 70 years, 80 hours a week for only 80K a year, what the heck is my life? Do I have enough to like really just quit with nothing lined up? Did not quit with nothing lined up. But busy season, it will grind you down because it's a lot of hours, and it's also like you may think to yourself like, I don't have a why for this job. And so overall, and then also negatives with audit, like around the 3-year mark is when you start to get pigeonholed. It's not, I want to say pigeonholed, I mean this in a very loose term. It's because like you just like 3 to 4 years in, it's like you've only ever known audit, and so if you're looking to make a career jump to like finance or anything else that's not like auditing, people interviewing you will think to you being like, yeah, you have 3 years of audit, you got a good senior title on your resume, but like anything past it, like what do you bring to the table? And because audit is a very specific skill set that it's not even considered accounting really, because you're not posting journal entries. So overall, I'm glad you've gotten out of the 3-year mark because it is also paying quite a bit. So if you stick past this point, you may cap out in terms of salary, in terms of like trying to pivot out, because as much as people like to say that audit has some good exit opportunities, Big Four has done a great job in terms of like increasing salary throughout the year. So when I was pivoting out, like my salary was low-key kind of the same as like the industry roles I was applying for. And I do think there's an issue where 1 to 2 years of audit experience not seen as highly desirable. 1 to 2 years of experience in investment banking, software engineering, any other line of work, it's seen as extremely valuable and transferable. But the issue is auditing. There's a saying called Sally, and it's the same as last year. And the issue with this saying is it displays a lack of critical thinking skills. And so if you're looking to really level up your auditing skills, try to get on first-year audit clients. Try to get in like more first-year anything, because these will force you to think for yourself. Because when I was on the bigger name audit clients, yes, it sounds better than the interview process, saying like, oh, I was on the Apple audit, or I was on the Coursera Gaming audit. But the issue is these are more like Sally audits, where it's like, it's a public company, you're trying to maximize profit. It's better to just like do the same thing as last year, which, good or bad, I've heard cases with some audit clients, like you try to give some pushback, so it's, hey, I'm an audit managing director, I think we should do it this way. And then they tell you like, we've been audited by you guys for 10 years, I'm not changing anything. And so you get more experiences like this. But if you're on a pre-IPO client, those clients, they tend to be very open to like feedback, because they honestly probably don't know what they're doing. And so anytime they give you like, they get advice from you saying like, hey, we should do it this way, they'd be like, oh, thank you, you are a great value add. Now let's talk about the high performer pathway and why you should maybe do it if you want to get some good exit opportunities. Being a high performer in Big Four auditing, this term will get thrown around a lot, and it's a very vague term because, yeah, being a high performer is subjective. What's considered good for one manager is not good for another manager. I've known people where they were considered high performer, but their audits were very simple, like from what I heard. But then there's also like dumpster fire audits where it's like, if this person was like on any other engagement, they would be just a rock star. But because of the nature of that engagement, the managers didn't view them as a high performer. So this term, very vague, only like 5 to 10% of people get this label. Maybe go for it if you really just, I don't know, if you want that extra like 5 to 10K a year, go for it. Back when I left, I got the above and middle category like in different years. So my salary was around 106K a year, but those who were considered high performers, they were 120K a year. Like those who were like with the same level as me, but like every year they had partners and people just fighting for them like day in, day out, they got some good salaries. But I've also seen the hours they worked, and also it's like, I don't think I would personally motivate myself to get that bucket. But hey, if you're interested in being a high performer, go for it, because inevitably when you interview out, they're gonna ask you like, hey, name a time you're a high performer, name a time you went above and beyond, name a time X, Y, and Z. And if you're consistently a high performer, you're gonna have an easy time answering this question. But let's say that, keep in mind, if you're a high performer, you gotta keep that momentum up, because if you disappoint people above you, it's gonna bite you in the butt. I have seen cases where year over year, someone's a high performer, and then manager, like when the times for promotion came up for manager level, they weren't performing to some high standard, they got snubbed for promotion. So let's talk about overall warnings and advice for being in a Big 4 audit. Try your best to not fall in the trap of like just coasting. Like, yes, the salary is good. Yes, it could be easy to be like, man, 9 to 5, let's clock out. But those who have seen, personally, the moment that I realized that my why for this job is to finance my lifestyle outside of work, I took the job significantly more seriously. Because 1 to 2 years in, I was kind of depressed, thinking like, man, what's this corporate grind? Oh my God. And so the way I got over this was I had to seriously take a step back and think like, what do I want out of life? And it helped me feel a lot better about the job. For you personally, you need to figure out, why do you want to do this job? Because if you're coasting, you will just potentially wake up one day and think like, 3 years have gone by, what do I have to show for? Because I have talked to some managers where they told me like they never intended to stay past 3-4 years, and then suddenly became a senior manager, and they thought like, man, what is my life? And one more general piece of advice, always keep a lookout for those who will shout your praises. I'm talking to partners who during year-end reviews would say like, hey, all my team members are rock stars. I'm not accepting anyone on this team outside of the 5 to 10% range. I've heard cases of this happening during manager meetings where it's like, I had another manager tell me, it's like, how does on Ricky's team, he has all high performers, like how does he get all these people? And like, you can make the case like he developed them, but this partner realized like, hey, if you want people to stick around, you need to pay them well. Also, pick and choose what you become good at. And what do I mean by this? If you have an interest in technology, get good at Alteryx, Power BI. Companies outside of public accounting care about this a lot, because Alteryx, it's a tool, it's similar to Excel. If you're a good Excel user, that's going to transfer to any company you join. But let's say you become really good at offshore work. Like, yes, it's good where it shows that you're saving audit hours, but at the same time, like, not every company is globally based. So having an achievement where it's like, oh, I offshored this many hours, and like really champion the efforts in my firm, like you'd have to try a lot harder to like make your interviewer understand what you did. Or if like you have a proprietary software at your company, if you become a champion of that software, no one outside the company cares about it, but it will give you brownie points inside the company, but nothing outside the company. You need to be intentional with the clients you pick, because I've seen a lot of cases where people just get dropped into asset management, and now it's 4 years in, and it's like they've only ever known asset management clients. And crafting a story about why they should be in the technology industry, extremely difficult. Doable, but extremely difficult. For me personally, I had an interest in technology being in San Francisco, and so I joined a technology company right after Big 4 auditing, but I would not have gotten to that if I'd stayed in asset management coming out of college. And then inevitably, there will be offshoring that's taking place a lot while you're in Big 4 auditing. Is not going away anytime soon. Audits are a race to the bottom, and unfortunately, offshoring is an easy way to just cut the bottom line and just pay for less for getting the same product. And you can argue that like the quality will be not that good, but at least for the time being, it's here to stay. Maybe lead into it, you will be judged metric-wise of like having good offshore members, but it's also a case of like digging your own grave, so keep that in mind. So in conclusion, my 3 years in public accounting set me up for some great success. It taught me a lot of skills, a lot of good work ethic, and I will say, anyone who's familiar with John Summit, he was an EY auditor, and you can watch some of his interviews where it's like, auditing is so boring, it forces you to do other things in your life, and he's honestly not wrong. I post social media because I just thought like, if I have this good work ethic for busy season, I could do it for, social media, or like posting working out, or just doing anything that isn't accounting. So yeah, it's the work ethic you develop in auditing will just carry with you throughout the rest of your time in your career. I do think there is an issue where like auditing is not really accounting. You're never gonna post a journal entry, at least in Big 4 auditing. So this already holds you back. You're not using NetSuite, you're not using Workiva on the user side. So you really, when you're applying out, you're kind of trying to show your soft skills, show your ability to pick up new skills. And so I think it was a good foundation for me, but if I had to redo things over again, maybe try to start off in advisory in Big 4. Advisory is more of a value-added service. You develop more skills. It's more like, I wasn't in it, but from what I heard, I think it would have been more bang for my buck in terms of the hours I put in. And ultimately, I do wish I leaned more into the technology initiatives of Big 4 Auditing, ChatGPT, Alteryx, Power BI. I just didn't have these abilities coming out of college, so no one really, when I told people I wanted to do this, I just like, it was very tough for them to trust me with these tasks because it's like, yeah, I don't have any innate skills, like, and we have only 24 hours in a day, so let's just pick someone who's a lot more knowledgeable about this. I did get the Alteryx core certification, I did do Power BI certifications in my free time, but I do wish I had more real world application, because you can do all the trainings you want, but until you actually do something with it in real life, it is very difficult to justify people giving you work related to it. Feel free to comment any questions you have, any like concerns you may have, or heck, even point out I'm wrong in this video because my perspective is very limited. I only did 3 years. Someone who's a manager who just like got promotion after promotion early, just is making bank, having some good experiences. Like, there is positives being a Big 4 Auditing. I just personally didn't see myself long term in it. So always keep that in mind.